Part 2 of this talk is about our approach to screening, monitoring and therapy in Marfan syndrome and these related disorders. All these patients require a detailed family pedigree, clinical history and examination. In suspected Marfan syndrome, the family history is important to determine if other family members have aortic root involvement, ectopia lentis, a known pathogenic FBN1 mutation, or a positive systemic score to see if they independently meet diagnostic criteria. Ophthalmology referral is essential to assess for ectopia lentis and other eye features. Chest X-ray is important at baseline to assess for obvious aortic dilatation, pectus deformities and scoliosis, and we sometimes add specific hip and spine X-rays. Echo allows us to determine aortic involvement and any associated aortic insufficiency or mitral valve and tricuspid valve prolapse and regurgitation. MRI or CT in some units, dependent on adequacy of echo imaging, may play a role in baseline assessment for aortic involvement and sometimes to look for any associated dural ectasia. Then, in the setting of ectopia lentis, which is so specific to Marfan syndrome, and in the absence of features of other disorders, we might choose to prioritize genetic testing just to look for FBN1 mutations. In suspected Loeys-Dietz syndrome, patients may have Marfan syndrome-like features, but also the characteristic craniofacial features of Loeys-Dietz syndrome, a previous history of club feet, impressive arterial tortuosity on imaging, and more aggressive vascular disease in the wider family or patient's previous history. Also vascular EDS-like features with abnormal scarring, and the increased allergy, food intolerance, and the eosinophilic esophagitis, which is now being described in Loeys-Dietz syndrome. Ophthalmology referral is now usually to exclude ectopia lentis. Baseline chest X-ray is again important, but flexion extension cervical spine X-ray assessment, particularly in children, is very important to exclude cervical spine instability. We also always perform echo, and in Loeys-Dietz syndrome, baseline MR, MRA or CT, CTA to assess the extent of aortic and the entire arterial vasculature involvement, plus to look for the known associated brain, skull and spine abnormalities. Then, in these patients, if there were highly suggestive features of Loeys-Dietz syndrome, we might choose to prioritize genetic testing just to look for the mutations in the LDS-associated genes. Then, where history and exam were not suggestive of Marfan syndrome or Loeys-Dietz syndrome, we would look for the non-associated features with the smooth muscle-related genes like iris flocculi, livedo reticularis, bicuspid aortic valve or patent ductus arteriosus, cerebrovascular disease and premature coronary artery disease with ACHD2, patent ductus arteriosus with myosin heavy chain 11, or a family history of dissection at any aortic dimension with myosin light chain kinase. Again, after echo, we would always perform more extensive MR-CT imaging of the aorta and entire arterial vasculature, from the circle of Willis cerebral vasculature to the popliteal arteries, and now request genetic testing for the aneurysm vascular panel to screen for all the most commonly associated genes described. For follow-up, echo is our mainstay, and we would mainly be performing annually, but more frequently when approaching surgical indications or post-recent surgery or dissection, and sometimes less frequently in patients with long-term stable aortic dimensions in the low-risk range. Aortic root Z-scores for body surface area, like in the bottom panel, are useful mostly in younger patients in determining the likelihood of progression, with patients with Z-scores in the normal, less than or equal to 2, or mildly dilated range, 2 to 3, less likely to progress. In the 3 to 4.5 range, some Marfan's patients just end up being tall adults with large aortas, but those in the greater than 4.5 range are in the highest risk group for requiring surgery. It is also important to have accurate measures of the ascending aorta and to recognize effacement of the sinotubular junction, rapid growth of any aortic dimension greater than 5 mm per year, and progression of aortic insufficiency are all important additional risk factors. MRI or CT, when indicated, is required annually to 3 yearly, again dependent on the severity of the underlying condition or perioperatively. It is also important to recognise that the MR LV outflow tract 3-chamber view best replicates our equivalent parasternal long-axis view, but that MRI also offers multiple other planes to assess the widest cusp-to-cusp, cusp-to-commissure, or commissure-to-commissure dimensions in the short axis. However, consequently, this introduces more measurement variability and a range of dimensions which is routinely 2 to 4 millimeters greater than that found by the echo. In the conditions where more widespread arterial vasculature involvement is anticipated, whole-body angiography, like in the left panel, from the circus of Willis cerebral vasculature to the popliteal arteries, should be performed at baseline and repeated at a frequency dependent on the underlying disease severity. Arterial tortuosity, particularly of the vertebral and carotid arteries, plus the aorta and its other major branches, as seen in the right panel, is also a useful marker of the severity of the underlying disease process. Surgical indications are based on previous aortic dissection registry data showing that size does matter. Given the impressive hinge point for increased risk of aortic complications at 6 cm for the ascending aorta, as seen in the first graph, the cutoff for surgical intervention in the general population in most units now has been set at 55 mm, and for higher risk Marfan patients at 50 mm, and in some even higher risk conditions now like Loeys-Dietz syndrome or myosin light chain kinase associated familial thoracic aortic aneurysm and dissection with an aggressive family history at even lower limits. However, similar to as we wrote when we updated our Canadian guidelines in 2009, for Marfan syndrome most units will go to surgery sooner in the 45 to 50 mm range if there is more rapid growth of the aorta greater than 5 mm per year, progressive aortic insufficiency where the surgeon believes delaying will preclude a valve-sparing aortic root replacement, in the setting of more severe family history, or where other surgery is indicated like mitral valve repair. Additionally, with pregnancy and Marfan syndrome, no aortic dimension is considered absolutely safe, but below 40 mm the risk is probably not significantly increased above the general population. In the 40 to 44 mm range, a woman certainly warrants follow-up in a special pregnancy unit with increased monitoring and therapy, and at 45 mm and above, we would recommend surgical repair prior to pregnancy. For adults with Loeys-Dietz syndrome or familial thoracic aortic aneurysm and dissection with TGFBR1 or 2 or SMAD3 mutations, indications remain a little more controversial, but are generally based on personalized decision making with aortic root dimension greater than 4 cm or rapid expansion greater than 5 mm per year, particularly in conjunction with other features of the syndrome or an aggressive family history, being indications to move ahead sooner. After this paper in 1994 by Shores et al. In the New England Journal of Medicine showed that prophylactic beta blockers were effective in slowing the rate of aortic dilatation and reducing the development of aortic complications, at least in some patients. Beta blockers really became the mainstay of medical therapy in Marfan syndrome. But then after fibrillin was shown not only to have an important structural role in the microfibrils in our connective tissue, but also that it is bound to TGF-beta, in 2006, Jen Habashi with Haldeitz's group in Baltimore in a Marfan mouse model were able to show that firstly TGF-beta antibodies were able to prevent aortic aneurysms, and then that losartan, which was already known from previous research to be a TGF-beta inhibitor, also had the same effect and was significantly more effective than placebo and beta blockers. This then formed the basis of the international drug trials of angiotensin receptor blockers as medical therapy for Marfan syndrome. So I'm not going to go over these next few slides in details, but just to highlight that in these 10 international drug trials that the age range is extended from pediatric to adult, and only some of the trials restricted eligibility by severity according to aortic root Z-score. Additionally, that some trials compared add-on losartan therapy versus beta blocker alone. Some were head-to-head losartan versus beta blocker. Some had a placebo arm. and the Italian trial used nebivolol as the beta blocker, which is thought to have anti-stiffness properties, and the UK trial used irbesartan rather than losartan, as it is thought that it can be up-titrated to a higher ARB equivalent dose more effectively. The pediatric and adult doses for losartan tended to be similar in most of the trials, but the NIH-funded PHN trial across the US and also Ghent, Belgium, and here in Toronto used much higher doses of beta blocker, up to 4 mg per kilo per day of atenolol, and to a maximum dose of 250 milligrams per day in an adult. The primary endpoint was aortic dilatation in most trials, but 2 smaller studies in Vancouver and Boston also looked at pulse wave velocity as a measure of aortic stiffness. And for your reference, most of the protocols of these trials have been published, and a prospective meta-analysis is underway to compare all of the results of these trials pending their completion. So perhaps most significantly thus far, the results of the Dutch trial comparing beta blocker and losartan versus beta blocker alone in adults with Marfan syndrome followed by MRI have been published. And they found over 3 years a lower rate of aortic root dilatation in the beta blocker and losartan group, and also in post-operative patients a lower rate of aortic arch dilatation, but no difference in hard outcomes like aortic dissection, need for elective aortic surgery, or death. The Pediatric Heart Network trial, which will be overall the largest trial, was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in November 2014. And in this trial, we used aortic root Z-score by echo as the primary endpoint in Marfan syndrome aged 6 months to 25 years, followed on high-dose atenolol versus standard dose losartan over 3 years. And this was a superiority trial, and we found no significant difference in the rate of aortic root dilatation between the 2 treatment groups over 3 years. However, both slopes were significantly less than 0, indicating improvement in the rate of aortic root dilatation occurred with either treatment. Additionally, there was again no difference in hard outcomes like rates of elective aortic surgery, aortic dissection, and death. And I think as a group of investigators, some of our most important comments in interpreting the significance of this trial included that 1, there appeared to be an increased benefit of both drugs when used in younger patients, 2, that atenolol was well tolerated up to high doses, and 3, perhaps that the losartan may have been more effective if used in higher than standard doses, as we do now often in clinical practice for more severe Marfan syndrome and Loeys-Dietz syndrome patients. So from the evidence to date, my current practice for medical therapy and for surgical indications for these patients is now based on personalized decision making and depends on 1, whether the condition is Marfan syndrome, Loeys-Dietz syndrome, other familial thoracic aortic aneurysm and dissection conditions, or bicuspid aortic valve associated aortopathy, etc. 2, the size of the involved aortic segments and whether there is other arterial involvement. 3, the rate of aortic root growth with greater than 5 millimeters per year of any segment, significant change in Z-score, particularly useful in younger patients, sudden effacement of the ST junction or worsening of AI, which are all potentially risk factors for dissection, and any family history of need for surgery, aortic dissection, or death at a young age. Accordingly, starting medical therapy is tailored to the individual's risk group. So for Marfan syndrome with no or only mild aortic involvement and no significant family history, I tend to recommend ongoing monitoring. For Marfan syndrome with significant aortic involvement and growth, plus a concerning family history, I would recommend starting either drug early and using both, plus higher doses of losartan, or switch to irbesartan early to maximize the angiotensin receptor blocker dose. For patients in between, I now recommend starting medical therapy, but personalize the decision-making process according to disease severity. Similarly, in Loeys-Dietz syndrome, I use the same approach according to disease severity, but start medical therapy at lower aortic root dimensions and Z-scores. For familial thoracic aortic aneurysm and dissection, the same, but I don't use angiotensin receptor blockers and ACHD2, myosin heavy chain 11, and myosin light chain kinase smooth muscle gene or bicuspid aortic valve associated thoracic aortic aneurysm, unless there is another cardiac indication, as I'm not aware of any evidence to date that these are TGF-beta mediated diseases. So I'd just like to finish by thanking you for your attention and acknowledging all the people that I work with in these clinics, including our geneticists, cardiac and vascular surgeons, and all the various physicians that are essential to provide multidisciplinary care for these patients. Thank you.